This is Fusion Capitalism, a clean energy vision for conservatives. Brought to you by industry leader and company CEO, Steve Malink. Here's Steve.
Welcome back to the conclusion of my conversation with Kiran Kumaraswamy, the Vice President of Market Applications at Fluence, a billion-dollar Siemens and AES energy storage tech company that has deployed the world's first grid-connected battery energy storage system. Kiran, in part one, we talked about the importance of energy storage, but now I want to dig deeper into Fluence. What is unique about this joint venture between Siemens and AES versus other battery storage companies?
So one of the things that is very unique is that we started from the inside out, meaning that we started out identifying specific pain points on the electric system that energy storage could potentially solve for. I mentioned one of the first projects that we did was in Chile. It was a thermal generation facility that was utilizing energy storage to earn higher return on that facility. And so in that case, the team had found out a very specific use case for energy storage that we knew would make money for that facility, right? So we were always focused on applications of energy storage in the electric grid that made economic sense, right? So we were never in favor of like going after pilot projects or things to really prove a use case, right? We were engaged on things that really make sense and make sense from our customer's perspective, right? And so we kind of grew inside out. We did not design a product and go search for a market for it to fill the gap. Rather, it happened the other way around, where we found specific jobs that storage was doing much better at than competition and developed products to actually fit that need that we found in the market, right? And so we've had this amazing combination of people from AES and Siemens that came together to establish this joint venture. We've had the good fortune and privilege of, both these large corporations really backing us thus far and giving us the capital that we need to grow the business and the structure that we need from management perspective and the nimbleness that is extremely important. This is an area that is evolving so quickly. And so what used to be in style 12 months ago may or may not be in style today, right? And so the clock speed is very different in the storage industry, right? It's a little bit like the solar industry 10 years ago, right? I
Yes.
mean, if you're using costs from like a year ago, it's like so outdated. You got to be recalibrating yourself every 3 months once. And so this is a high clock speed industry. And so we've been blessed and very fortunate in that both these companies have given us the structure where we can be pretty nimble in going after market opportunities. And we've utilized that structure to grow the business significantly. And like I said before, every year we've been growing the company in terms of sales capture and growing the company in terms of people. I came into the company on the first day. We were about 100 people back then. I think we are upwards of about 400 people today. And so the significant growth that we are seeing, thanks to largely a lot of growth in the market itself and our position in the marketplace. And again, we've been at it for a longer time, and that means that we've learned our lessons. Most importantly,
Sure.
the platform that we have today that we are offering to our customers is the 6th generation platform. Not to say that we've gone through 5 generations of it, and each time we've learned our lessons. In some cases a little painful, in some cases a little less painful, and incorporated those lessons into future generations. I think that gives us a leg up in terms of competition and being ahead of the pack.
So what is the synergy? Can you be more specific between these two organizations? Is it a technology type of joint venture, or is it a shared cost kind of a joint venture? What was the reason? How does this make a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of a fit?
Great question. I mean, I think it's a combination of a few things, Steve. One is AES is a large power corporation. I mean, they have utilities that they own in the US and abroad. They own power plants, every type of generation facility. And so it's a large power corporation. And on the other end is Siemens, which is a household name, so to say, so many different type of things that Siemens does. And so both these companies had been doing energy storage for a long time. I came in from the AES side myself on the energy storage side into this joint venture company. And so both these companies had been doing their own things on energy storage that they felt that they needed to combine forces together to establish the powerhouse of energy storage technology and products and solutions and services, right? And so I think that's kind of the impetus for the creation of the JV, and give it a very focused mission towards utilizing energy storage as the key change agent in our pursuit of clean energy and adoption of clean energy for the overall energy system, right? And so that's the mission statement that we have at Fluence, and we do stand by it. This is one that we take to heart, a lot of us, including myself. It's what propels us, and so it gives us a very single point focus in terms of doing energy storage only, right? So that we don't do 15 other things. We're highly focused on delivering energy storage products and solutions and services to the customers that we serve, and highly focused on making sure that this is the center point of enabling the transition into clean energy economy, right? And so
Okay.
that's kind of the impetus that the two large corporations had. And 3 years out, as we sit here in March of 2021, as I think about it, it's largely paid off. It's
Hmm.
generated the impact that the founders desired for, and in the growth that we've achieved, and in some external market validation, it's penciling out pretty well. So one of the things that didn't happen a few months ago is that Fluence raised some capital in the market for the first time. And so through a private placement, we actually did raise $125 million in the market. We named Qatar Investment Authority, QIA, as an investor partner in raising that capital. And so from a recognition perspective, third-party analysts like Navigant Research, they've consistently named us as the number one energy storage technology company. It was this year or last year we were named again as the number one company. And so through this capital raise that was done earlier in the year, this year, and industry benchmarks, I would say that we've largely delivered on the vision that the founders had for setting up this
Hmm.
JV.
Okay. Now, Fluence is not yet the household name that Tesla is. Does Fluence have visions of becoming a more of a well-known name, I guess, or is the focus so much on the utility side, given your joint venture with AES, that it's less important that you be known by the average consumer, that you're known by the average utility?
That's exactly right. That's how we think about ourselves. Tesla is a different business model and a different company. For us at Fluence, we want to be delivering the lowest total cost of ownership energy storage systems that deliver the highest value for our customers globally, and be their trusted advisor in a period of change where clean energy resources are becoming simply the most economic choices out there, right? And
Hmm.
so the places that we have done exceedingly well are where we have actually taken that approach of being the real advisor or partner for our customers and helping them realize their full potential out of their own businesses. We are working with utilities and IPPs around the world in enabling this vision. And so that's our pursuit. We have a slightly different approach to the customer and market segments that we want to serve.
In a interview in 2018, you said, "We'd like to see 90% of integrated resource plans reasonably reflect the cost and benefits of energy storage. This is not asking for special treatment or incentives. This is asking for equal opportunity." In your opinion, have the markets and regulations been catching up with your vision over the last 3 years?
Yes and no. I think the yes part of it is in several parts of the US market, absolutely. I think there is certainly greater awareness of including energy storage as a resource in traditional planning and procurement type activities. Back then, I was stating this pretty much in every forum at that time, was where we had procurements that were tailored towards either a generation type or a fuel type, right? And so I think the idea was that we didn't want to get boxed into that type of thinking where you would try to make something resource neutral and technology neutral as opposed to trying to make this specific to a particular technology, right? And so that has significantly changed, I would say. So in the last 3 years, there's a lot more integrated resource plans that have good characterization of energy storage, a reasonably good characterization of benefits and costs. Has it happened 100%? Not yet, but it's on a curve, right? So I think change is beginning to happen. And on the regulations side, I think one of the key areas is that we've had key regulations coming in from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. Order 841 has come through. And so that was a key focus for us and for me particularly. We had lived through a lot of impediments on the regulatory side that forced energy storage not to deliver its full value to the electric grid. So a lot has changed since then, but we have to follow through on that. Right now is the difficult part of following through. Right? So now we are in the implementation phase of Order 841. So one of the key things that we are focused on today is to make sure that the independent system operators across the country are implementing Order 841 in its intended spirit, right, and not taking either too long of a time or implementing it in a way that is not the appropriate way to recognize all the benefits of storage.
Okay.
It's been refreshing. Things are changing. I wish it happened at a faster pace, but that's just me. So
Do you see the Biden administration accelerating the pace of regulations being changed to, conform to this vision that you have? For example, will putting a price on carbon be a good thing for Fluence?
I think the Biden administration is taking the right steps. I'm particularly very excited about the leadership within this administration that is coming together to take on some of these complex challenges. For example, one of my good friends, Kelly Speaks Bachman, who was the CEO of the Energy Storage Association, is now leading Department of Energy's Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy group. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the EERE group at the DOE. Secretary Granholm at the DOE, she has done some wonderful things. And in combination with the Department of Energy itself, they've launched the Energy Storage Grand Challenge program last year. I'm very optimistic that we'll see several good programmatic structures that will come out of the Department of Energy, particularly under this administration. Now, there's a few areas that we are focused in as a company. One is related to the investment tax credit, particularly for standalone storage assets. We have some bills in Congress today. On the House side, we have the House Bill 1684, which is the Energy Storage Tax Incentive and Deployment Act. On the Senate side, we have Senate Bill 627, which is a bipartisan Storage Tax Incentive and Deployment Act. Many of these bills would go a long way in remedying what I personally consider to be a failed tax policy on its application for energy storage, right? So maybe to put that in context, today the way we have interpreted the Section 48 rule on investment tax credit is that we have to pair energy storage with solar resources for it to get the ITC treatment. So the IRS actually uses a 70% cliff test to make sure that facilities actually qualify for getting this credit. But the reality, and any engineer or any electric system planner or utility operator will tell you this, is that energy storage provides value wherever it's connected in the grid. The fact that you have to be co-located with the exact same renewable facility at that exact same substation really does not make physical sense from an engineering perspective. If it's located at the neighboring substation, it's not that the benefits are any less or any greater. It's exactly the
Mhm.
same type of benefits.
Mhm.
We have an obligation to fix that, right?
Yeah.
Today we have a scheme where we are saying if you're located exactly at that same location, you qualify for the ITC. But if you're at a location that is like half a mile away, you don't get that treatment. That's not true. Right.
Mhm.
I think what we are focused on is remedying that and making sure that we can get the standalone storage ITC done. And the good news is that storage has always been bipartisan. I've personally believed in it, and I think it's absolutely true. This is a technology that helps our overall grid function better. Whether you pair it with gas fired generation or coal fired generation or hydro plants or transmission lines that I spoke about previously. I mean, it just makes everything better. And other
Hmm.
commodities are a great example of that. So
Yeah.
this is not a partisan issue. This is as bipartisan as it gets. That's my outlook for like what I think about the administration itself. And maybe the final point to hit is the tariffs, as we saw in the previous administration. For a company like Fluence, which is at the leading edge of making change happen in the US energy storage market, I think we've been impacted by the tariffs. And so we do think that continued imposition of these tariffs might actually advance rather than deter China's energy storage ambitions. The fact of the
Hmm.
matter is that we compete with suppliers on a global market and we encounter competition from Chinese companies in many markets outside the US, particularly in Europe and Australia. Siemens is a European company, and we have a strong market in Europe, and we have a very emerging market in Asia Pacific. And tariffs hurt our bottom line and make us less price competitive than our Chinese counterparts without that exposure, right? And
Hmm.
so I think this is one that could have an unintended consequence of
Sure.
harming our leadership in the space, particularly for a company like us. And so, and some of the thoughts that we've voiced before is if you wanted to ramp up the supply chain and the manufacturing of, let's say, batteries in the US, we should think about it programmatically in terms of what it would take for us, the ramp times that it would take for us to, get the production that we need. And we would be delighted to source materials here locally. But as we all know, that supply chain is evolving and evolving slowly, right? And so
Yes.
we just have to give it enough time. And in the interim, we have to find the right policies and procedures that can be put in place to retain our competitiveness in global markets.
Okay. Well, Karen, my last question is a more personal one. Tell us about your role as VP of Market Applications at Fluence and what experiences prepared you for your current role.
Yeah, great question. I came in from the energy side of the house. By training, I'm an electrical engineer. I went to the University of Wisconsin. I'm a Badger by heart. Um, and so I trained as an electrical engineer. I started out my career doing energy consulting at a company advising private equity clients on valuing power assets, particularly on the generation and transmission space. I spent a lot of time on learning power market models and learned all about the electricity markets. And so today, if I reflect on it, the work that I do, and particularly my team does, is in helping electric companies in the US and around the globe understand the benefits of energy storage. And so our whole business model is oriented around understanding what customers need. We take a lot of time in understanding these needs across the world. And that's what I do in my position as the vice president of this market applications team. The team defines the jobs that we can do with energy storage for customers, and then we create economic models and drive the regulatory changes that are needed to be able to deliver these solutions to our customers. Based on this customer knowledge, we also clarify the key market segments and associated product requirements that we need to develop. This then internally for a company like Fluence drives our product roadmap and our manufacturing and logistics strategy, which we then directly map back to our customer needs. That's the way we think about it. Ultimately, it's all going towards helping our customers get reliable, low cost, clean electricity and enable the full use of renewable energy that is the cheapest source of electricity. I've had the good fortune and privilege, Steve, of working around the globe. That's been one of the perks of this job personally for me. I've had multiple roles with Influence. At one job with Influence, I was leading something in Asia Pacific. And so I've had the very good fortune and privilege of interacting with customers and regulators and stakeholders from markets like Australia and the Philippines and India and in Germany and other markets like that. So it's been a very rewarding professional experience for someone like me. And personally, also high honor and privilege that I've testified several times before Congress on this topic of battery energy storage. Today, I serve also on the board of directors for the Energy Storage Association in the US, the largest trade group that represents storage interests. So it's been a terrific ride for me in my role, and being at Fluence, one of the leading companies of energy storage, has certainly given me these opportunities at an individual level.
Well, Karen, this has been a great conversation. It seems that solar and wind power technologies are approaching maturity in a way, but that battery energy storage is not yet there. and it's in a way kind of a missing link. The U.S. becoming a leader in the clean energy revolution of the 21st century. And so I think this conversation was so important, getting a better understanding of where we are today and where we're going. And you did a great job at filling in some of those voids. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Steve. It's been incredibly helpful for me speaking on this topic.
Thanks for listening to Fusion Capitalism. To find out more about Steve Malink and his book, go to fusioncapitalism.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.